If the deep state succeeds in getting rid of cash, and that's exactly what's going on right now, that war is raging right this moment, your privacy, your individual liberty, your ability to buy and sell is going to be under mortal threat. That's the agenda. So stay tuned and learn who's behind this and why they're up to it. So the purveyors of fake news have got everybody in a tizzy. Oh my goodness, we're going to get coronavirus from using cash money. And then that wasn't persuasive enough, so then they added one more to the mix. There's a coin shortage. Suddenly we ran out of coins, apparently. Absolute baloney. Okay, there's no coin shortage except the manufactured one that they've created, and the idea that you're going to get coronavirus and die from currency is absolutely ludicrous. People have been using currency for thousands of years, and in fact, they were advocating to get rid of cash many years before any coronavirus or any coin shortage. So we'll come back to that, but it's important to know that really coronavirus right now is the central element of their strategy for the deep state to get us out of using cash. Now, in these stimulus bills that they passed, both bills, the Democrats introduced language that would create a digital dollar, and they were actually going to pay you your stimulus money on a digital dollar in a digital wallet that would be created and controlled by the Federal Reserve banking cartel. If you're not familiar with the Federal Reserve, you ought to go back and watch our episode on that. The language was removed before the bills were passed, and so they haven't officially created it just yet. But if it were to have passed, Americans would have gotten their little stimulus payment on a digital dollar in a digital wallet. And mind you, $1,200 stimulus for you, $75,000 worth of debt added onto the backs of you and your wife and your husband and your children and your grandchildren so that they could bail out the mega banks and the huge corporations. Now, a lot of people were cheerleading this. So you had this one guy, Daniel Gorfine. He told Forbes magazine about this digital dollar. Oh, it's worth exploring and testing and piloting a true U.S. dollar central bank digital certificate or digital currency and broader digital infrastructure in order to improve our future capabilities and resiliency. I mean, that doesn't sound like PR hack gobbledygook. I don't know what does. Now, the two Democrat bills actually defined the digital dollar as a balance expressed as a dollar value consisting of digital ledger entries that are recorded as liabilities in the accounts of any Federal Reserve bank or an electronic unit of value redeemable by an eligible financial institution as determined by the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. So these digital wallets were defined in the legislation, and they said they would be tied to a digital identity maintained by the Federal Reserve, and that way all the slaves could get their slave payments in the form of digital dollars. And that's where this is going, folks. I mean, they're going to offer you money if you'll switch over to this system, if you'll surrender your cash. They might even start offering you a universal basic income now that they've destroyed 50 million of our jobs and shut down and destroyed hundreds of thousands of our small businesses. Now, one of the big reasons that they want to advance a cashless society is to completely eviscerate our privacy, right? If we get rid of cash, they know everything you do, everything you buy, everything you sell, everyone you sell to, everyone you buy from, how much you spent, where you spent it, how much tax you owe, what you bought, what kind of medicine you're taking, and on, right? But there's another important component to this as well, and that is negative interest rates. The Federal Reserve has kept interest rates at rock bottom now for over a decade. And they have nowhere left to go, right? I mean, you can't go below zero, or can you? Well, that's their plan. They want to take it below zero, but they know if you were earning negative interest rates on your money deposited at the bank, if you had two brain cells on duty, you'd go down to the bank and you'd take out your money and you'd put it under your mattress or you'd put it in your safe or something like that. Well, they can't have that, and so they need to have these digital dollars so that you can't withdraw your money. It must be in there, and then they can start stealing your money while you leave it deposited in the bank. Instead of the bank paying you to leave your money there, the bank will take money from you, and you'll have no choice but to leave it there. So basically, people will pay for the privilege of giving bankers their money rather than keeping cash at home. Now, the official excuses because of this, they're going to stop tax evasion, they're going to prevent drug dealing, they're going to stop armed robberies. But again, that's a bunch of baloney. And most recently, of course, it's the coronavirus, and that is also a bunch of baloney. Now, I want to go through some of the stuff because they've been out in the open about this for a while now. In July of 2014, CNN had this propaganda having the evolution of a cashless society, as if it's just, oh, this natural organic thing, it just evolved that way. Showing how far along each country was on the road to completely abolishing cash. The United States was at a, quote, tipping point. Canada, Belgium, France, Sweden, some of the others were called almost cashless, and then there was other countries that were still at the inception or transitioning, but everybody was going to be on board with this. Of course, there's no evolution here. This is an orchestrated agenda, and how do we know? Because they told us so, right? In September of 2012, the Subversive Forward Foundation, which works very closely with the Central Intelligence Agency, they like to fund abortions, they like to fund sustainable tyranny masquerading as sustainable development. They unveiled this thing that they called the Better Than Cash Alliance. And what could be better than cash? Tyranny, right? Now, before we get into their Better Than Cash Alliance, I want to talk real quick about the Ford Foundation that pioneered this. Back in the 1950s, Congress got really suspicious about the foundations. If you haven't seen our episode on the foundations, you need to go watch it because you can't understand what the foundations are up to without knowing all of this about this investigation. But the chief investigator for that congressional committee, his name was Norman Dodd. And once Congress started this investigation, they summoned Norman Dodd into the office of the head of the Ford Foundation, Alan Geither. And Alan Geither sat down Norman Dodd and told him that the goal was they were going to so use their grant making abilities as to so alter life in the United States that it could be comfortably merged with the Soviet Union. Now, don't believe me. Check out this video of Norman Dodd saying what the head of the Ford Foundation told him. Check this out.
I said, yes, Mr. Geither, I'd like very much to know. Whereupon he made this statement to me, namely, Mr. Dodd, we here operate on in response to similar directives, the substance of which is that we shall use our grant-making power so to alter life in the United States that it can be comfortably merged with the Soviet Union. Well, parenthetically, Mr. Griffin, I nearly fell off the chair.
So do you want to be comfortably merged with the Soviet Union? I hope not. But let's keep going here. Now, and if you find that hard to believe, right, the big capitalist foundations are moving us toward a communistic, totalitarian system of government, that couldn't be. Well, consider the Carnegie Foundation, which is, there was a handful of really huge foundations, Carnegie, Ford, and then, of course, Rockefeller. And the Carnegie Foundation, just a few years prior to that comment by the head of the Ford Foundation to Norman Dodd, was being run by a guy called Alger Hiss, who, of course, was a Soviet agent, right? He was working for Joseph Stalin. He was actually convicted in federal court, and so we threw him in prison. Now, this Better Than Cash Alliance, they partner with government. This is what they say on their website. The Better Than Cash Alliance partners with governments, the development community, and the private sector to empower people by shifting from cash to electronic payments. Isn't that nice? Do you feel empowered now that they are going to take away your cash? Some of the other organizations involved: the American taxpayer, right? The USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development, which also works very closely with the CIA. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, surprise, right? The same goons exploiting the coronavirus to take away your liberty also have been promoting this better than cash nonsense for a long time. The mega banks, right, which are hoping they're going to break in the big bucks, the bailed out mega bank Citibank, the credit card giant Visa, right? They get 2% off every transaction, 1%, 3%, I don't know what it is, every time you use your credit card. And they think, hey, if we can get rid of cash, we can earn more money, right? So these are a bunch of crony capitalists. They've hijacked our government. They've also got the dictators club that is the United Nations on board. The UN Capital Development Fund was actually serving as the alliance's secretariat. If you went to the website, the UN Capital Development Fund bragged about this. They said, and I quote, "Bringing about the shift to electronic payments on a global scale and ensuring that these benefits are maximized can be accelerated by an organization dedicated to exclusively providing a global advocacy, knowledge sharing, collaboration, and guidance on effective practices." Okay, so your tax money is promoting this insane plan to shred your privacy and shred your liberty. They said that the goal of the plan was to encourage governments, development organizations, and the private sector to commit to the digital transition. This is going to facilitate, and they spelled it wrong, the transition of these commitments into action. They had a whole bunch of other UN agencies involved: the World Food Program, the UN Development Program, lots of other government agencies as well, and even a whole bunch of governments, right? The governments of Malawi, Colombia, Kenya, Afghanistan, Peru, the Philippines, and on it goes. You have European governments that are at the forefront of this, right? The bloated Greek government, they were broke. They needed to pay back Goldman Sachs all the money that they owed them. And so they said, too much tax evasion. We are just going to ban all cash transactions over 1,500 euros. Then they ratcheted that down to 500 euros. You're not allowed to pay with cash. Then the socialist French government did that as well. Then the Spanish government jumped in and did the same thing. Now, Nigeria, way back in 2014, they implemented their cashless policy. This was a plot cooked up in 2012 by the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Bankers Committee. And their goal was to gradually reduce the amount of currency in circulation until there was none left, right? Everybody would have to be cashless. Obviously, if you're going to be cashless, they have to give you a digital ID. They need all your biometric data. So they were collecting fingerprints and face scans and all the rest of it so that you could get your money out. They were charging you huge fees to be able to get any cash out as a way to deter. And they actually talked about this. Listen to this. This is from the head of the central bank at the time, Lamido Sanusi. He said, "We have launched the bank verification number today. The timetable suggested within 18 months, every customer would have been registered." Okay, this is a day that we will remember for many reasons. And they need all your biometric data and all of that. Canada launched a similar plan in 2012. They wanted to harness the brain power of North America to come up with this digital currency. They ended up calling it the Mint chip, and that's coming. In the United States, the Federal Reserve is now working on the Fed coin. They want to create a Federal Reserve cryptocurrency. In 2017, the EU went ahead and put out these policy documents saying we needed to ban large cash transactions all across Europe, get rid of large denomination bills, right, so that you can't carry large amounts of cash on you. And eventually, guys, remember, the goal is to completely eliminate cash. You will not be able to buy and sell in cash. And just think about the implications of that, right? At the same time, they are implementing a global tax regime. The U.S. government under Obama helped lead the way with the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, the FATCA, which, if you know any Americans overseas, missionaries, teachers, businessmen, you know this has been absolutely devastating to them. But it did lay the foundation for the global tax scheme, where all tax authorities all over the world are sharing all their data with each other, including mass murdering dictatorships, by the way. They want to know how much money you have in America, and they can kidnap your children so they could hold you for ransom and all the rest of the stuff. Total abuse of power, total invasion of privacy. Right? Our founding fathers in America, they actually enshrined this in the Fourth Amendment. It was so important. They said that you have a right to be secure in your papers, on your person, in your houses, in your personal effects. Right? You have a right to that. It's a God-given right. The government can't just come in here and find out everything about you and share that with dictators and whoever they want to tax you more and take away your money. This is absolutely grotesque. And for Christians out there, there are some, I think, very significant implications here as well. If you go read Revelation 13:7, the Bible tells you that no man might be able to buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now, we don't know what that mark is going to be, and this is not an eschatology show or a Bible show. But keep in mind, guys, there's going to come a time, if these globalists, if this deep state gets its way, where you will not be able to buy or sell unless you agree to participate in this insane system that they're building. And you won't be able to just get cash and go to the market and buy some groceries or whatever. They want you to participate. And think about what that means. You make them mad enough, they might turn you off, right? And now you see they're promoting microchips in everybody, right? World leaders are saying we need to put microchips in everybody. Then you think about the scandals, the spying scandals, right? The NSA spying on everybody, and you realize, guys, this is a very, very dangerous occurrence. And then what happens if the power grid goes down, right? How are you going to pay if there's no electricity? I haven't thought about that, right? Guys, there's just so much wrong with this. The deep state fully plans to destroy your freedom, and a crucial part of that is the implementation of this cashless society. So don't believe the coronavirus propaganda that you're going to get coronavirus from using cash. Don't believe the nonsense about the coin shortage. They are coming for your freedom. That's what they're after, folks, and ultimately they want your soul too. So I'm Alex Newman. Obviously, I'm on the road. I don't have my normal background, my library, and my deep state sign. But anyways, I'm sitting in a chapel, and I just wanted to do a deep state video from the road. So thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Like this video, share it, subscribe, hit the little bell so that you get notifications. Otherwise, YouTube will never tell you. And don't forget, use cash. Try to bypass this system in everywhere you can. I mean, if you needed another incentive to use cash, this is it, folks. Let's hold them off for as long as we can. Thanks again, and God bless you all.